What's up, guys? We're really sticking to the code with this one. Excendia Research Cohort 2025. You know what it is. All right. What is a knowledge gap? Thinking like a frontier biotech architect. Okay. Imagine cracking open a freshly printed journal article and hearing, under the rustle of pages, an almost imperceptible hiss of negative space, a soft chorus of questions the author never asked. That hush is the knowledge gap. It's not a void, it's a pressurized potential, like the still air at a chamber just before ignition. We perform a literature review. We're not compiling a resume of other people's brilliance. We're conducting, intellectual excavation. Think of Heinrich Schliemann's brushing dust from the walls of Troy. Every shovel of earth removed is also a hypothesis discarded, a bias exposed. We unearth not only artifacts, but the contours of absences, the dog eared corners where curiosity was folded away. Take genomics. The Human Genome Project was hailed as a biology's moon landing. Yet, 2 decades later, we still struggle to map polygenic risk into bedside decisions. Why? Because the workflows that shuttle raw variant data and actionable insights are gummed up by everything from batch effects to reimbursement codes. That friction is invisible. If you only read the celebratory papers, you must interrogate the interstices, the sample handling quirks, the metadata potholes, the social determinants quietly skewing allele frequencies. Or, diagnostics, PCR revolutionized detection. But even in 2025, rural clinics still mail swabs to centralized labs, breeding day-long delays that render rapid meaningless. The literature rarely footnotes that spatial inequity. In wearable biosensors, we brag about millivolt precision heart rate monitors, yet bury the fact that darker skin tones and tattoo ink distort plethysmographic signal. I think I said that right. I don't know. Invisibly biasing the algorithms. These hairline cracks rarely headline abstracts. They whisper from the methods section like guilty secrets. Nietzsche once warned that we gaze into the abyss and the abyss gazes back. In frontier biotech, the abyss is the unquantified corner case, the single cell that refuses to conform, the patient subgroup no one cohorts. You must stare into the darkness until patterns emerge, because every paradigm shift starts as a misfit data and someone refused to discard. Now, here's a provocation. If you were designing an all-seeing AI pipeline, to ingest today's biomedical corpus, PubMed, bioRxiv, preprints, clinicaltrials.gov, conference posters, TikTok, surgeon rants. What is systemically miss? What would it systemically miss? It would nail entity extraction, ontology mapping, even multi-omic correlation, but it would likely overlook the tacit knowledge encoded in failed experiments, the cultural heuristics locked inside wet lab lore, the whispered caveats your PI mutters while pivoting at 2 a.m. It would index what exists. It would stumble on what ought to exist. An autonomous system perceives patterns of presence, not patterns of omission. Your job as a frontier biotech architect is to train your cognition on the negative space, to recognize the silhouette of what is absent and outline it in neon. So as you dive into week 2, do not summarize articles, interrogate their silence. Ask, what demographic was excluded? What region was quietly proprietary? Which workflow step will require human muscle memory? What does regulatory inertia masquerade as scientific rigor? Trace each gap until it branches into a thesis statement, a KPI, a prototype, because the future of translational science will be built not on the bricks of published results, but in the mortar of unanswered questions binding them together. Excavate ruthlessly, synthesize boldly, and remember, the echo you chase today becomes tomorrow's loudest signal. Signing out. I think I did a good one.